Welcome back, baseball fans, as we enter a new decade. We are getting ready for the 1990s. I am super excited for this one because this is the decade that I grew up in. This is when I was playing baseball. This is the time where my heroes, we're all there and I'm watching them. We have the home run races, we have steroid scandals, we have all kinds of stuff going on in this one, work stoppages, but I'm excited for the names that I'm going to come across. And we ended the 1980s, three straight world championships. Looking at the roster I have and the up and comers, I'm not so sure that's going to continue because we have an aging roster outside of Matt Williams is now getting in there, but they're getting older. It's harder to replace them. We don't have the pipeline there. We don't have a lot of great players coming through. Pitching, we're doing okay. I'm happy about the pitching, but there are some teams, such as the Expos here, who have some young up-and-comers. But if we look at the prospects and we take a look, we don't have hardly any of the new coming up prospects. The Cubs have, look at the Cubs. They've got, let's see, in their minor leagues, I think they're the ones that have, yes, they have Pedro Martinez, Rob Nin, Al Leiter, and Mike Messina all coming up in their system. So we're going to have to go up against them, which is a little worrying. But before we dive into the 1990 season, we are going to take a look to see if there's any new records that have been set over the last decade. So let's see. The at-bats was still Templeton in 1979. We don't have any 1980s records set. What about let's see, is there anybody close in the RBI race? No one's been up in the RBI since the 1960s. How about home runs? There were some big home run hitters. Yes, Mark McGwire, 54, one shy of Willie Mays' record, 1987. Cal Daniels in his amazing year, 1987. George Bell in 1987. Tom Bernansky in 1984. So several up there. As far as career leaders go, I don't see any name changes going on here. We can take a look at a few of these. Let's look at stolen bases, see where Ricky is. Ricky's sitting at 661. He's number 9. He's less than 300 away from Billy Hamilton. I would say that is well within his reach. Miguel DeLeon is at 528 after just 12 seasons, so he's got a chance to climb that even higher as well. We then have Tim Raines, 9 years, 460. He's going to jump into the top 30. I don't doubt that. Probably this season. Ozzie Smith, 445, might jump into the top 30 this season as well. Ron LaFleur. So we do have the base runners going on again, but in the 1990s, that's going to slow down quite a bit. And instead, we're going to see them start to jump up in the home run totals probably. So speaking of home runs, anybody else playing in the 80s retiring? Frank Robinson, Joe DiMaggio, or Frank Robinson retiring in 1980 at 7. Willie Stargell got up to number 11. Mike Schmidt's at number 12 at 531. He doesn't have a whole lot left in him. Excuse me. But he is getting there. Reggie Smith is sitting at 488. But this is his last season. When we look at where he was, he retired in 1982 with 363. With us, he has continued to hit since 1982. He's hit another 80 to 100 home runs, adding to his totals. Anybody else up here? Reggie Smith, we saw him. 1983, Reggie Jackson retired with 432. Darrell Evans retired with 408, and Dick Allen with 401. Let's see if there's any. Andre Dawson has 354, but again, he's getting up there in age. He might break 400. It's going to be interesting. The power numbers individually are quite a bit lower, I feel like. Dwight Evans, 317. Gene Tennis, still playing. He's getting on base by walking. He's not hitting. He's just walking all the time. Dale Murphy, 261. Still playing as well. I do want to look at walks. Do we have walks? Yes, we do. So Ted Williams had 3,034. Tennis, yeah, top 10, 1811. I was like, he had to be up there. Mike Schmidt's up there as well. Joe Morgan got 2,500, finished third. Reggie Smith at 34. Yeah, interesting. Gene Tennis, a walk machine. Probably a strikeout guy, too. Mike Schmidt definitely is. He might be pressing Mickey Mantle for number one. Bobby Grich is 1,800. Dwight Evans is up there. But let's take a look at the RBI totals. Closest we have, 1980s. Frank Robinson, who retired in 1980. Reggie Smith is still there. He's number 20. Good shot at making number 19, potentially, if he gets enough at bats. He only had 11 RBI last season, though, so I don't know that he will get those. Mike Schmidt, his is drying up as well. He will at least get one to pass Jimmy Fox. Willie Stargell finished 25th. No one else is really challenging. We had Darrell Evans get up there in 34th. Rusty Staub right behind him. Reggie Jackson, Cleve Boyer, George Brett's still going. Again, his numbers are getting a little less. Joe Morgan finished at 1,458. How about hits? Where are we at? Clemente, we knew. Anybody in the 1980s? There we go. Pete Rose only finished with 3,600 as opposed to his real 4,200. So he's 600 hits less for Pete Rose. Charlie Hustle. Did make the Hall of Fame, though, this year. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. Anybody else? Rod Carew is up with 3,409. Joe Morgan with 3,212. Reggie Smith still going, 3,181. Climbing up there. George Brett, 2,972. He'll hit 3,000 this year. Anybody else on there? Ken Griffey Sr. has 2,700. In reality, he had 2,100, so he's done quite a bit better this season because he still played in 1990-91. Him and his son, Junior, played together. Actually, Bill Madlock, about to come to the end of his career, but he's still at 2,500. How many 3,000 hit players do we have? 34. Soon to be 35. Okay, so that's interesting. We don't have anybody else as far as it goes. Doubles, no one's up there. Runs, no. Well, Reggie Smith at 1,800. 1988, Joe Morgan finished 10th. I'm sure. So Mike Schmidt's making his way up there. Ricky Henderson must just not be getting hit scoring quite like he should. He should be having so many more. And wins above replacement. Any newcomers to the top of the list? Mike Schmidt is up there at number 15 already. He's got a shot to keep climbing. Robinson finished. Yastrzemski finished with 101 and 20th. All of these guys have made the Hall of Fame. Reggie Smith, 33rd. It looks good considering everybody else around him has been in the Hall of Fame. So Dick Dietz is the first one that we get to that is not in the Hall of Fame, but that's because I don't think his number has come up yet since he retired in 1986. Bill Freehand retired in 1985. He's not in it. So that might be where we start seeing them not make it anymore. Like Judd Wilson never made it. Turkey Stearns never made it. Gene Tennis, I don't know if he'll make it. But Ricky Henderson's up there. Okay, so pitching. Do we have any new records? We have a new one. Strikeouts per 9. Just last year, Nolan Ryan. He's got the top 3. And he's got 6 of the top 7. And he's in there again. 7 of the top 10 seasons. Better than Koufax. Then in the overall wins, Koufax got to 462, setting a standard that probably won't be caught. Drysdale got to 366, retired at the same time. Tom Seaver got to 334, 329 for Steve Carlton. Nolan Ryan is at 326, so he could get himself into the top 10. He's got probably just 2 seasons left. He had 3 seasons left in real life. Sutton finished with 322. Gary Nolan. Where's he go? Gary Nolan is sitting there at 293. Still doing his thing. 41 years old. What did he do in real life? He's retired in 1977 with 110 wins. In a rough last 2 seasons, but he's been just kind of doing his thing. Won the most wins. No, nothing other than two All-Star appearances, though, for the man. Let's check on shutouts. Koufax, 108. Setting the standard, setting the pace. Seaver got to 55. Gaylord Perry to 53. Catfish Hunter got to 45. Burt Blyleven to 42. And we will start to see quite a drop-off. No more shutouts for people after that. And then let's check the strikeouts. Koufax, Nolan Ryan's not catching him. He is 1,100 behind still. He's just trying to catch his real-life total. Koufax was unhittable for so long. Seaver finished with 4,200. Carlton, 4,000. Drysdale, 3,800. Blyleven, 3,600. All the 1980s guys are up here. Sutton, Perry. Jerry Koosman at 3,200. Fergie Jenkins at 3,000 as well. Don Wilson is up here. Vida Blue still going, barely. 2,700. He's not going to probably get it. Frank Tanana is still up here. Has several years left potentially, but probably not going to. It looks like his ratings have dropped off. Gary Nolan is there. So there's going to be a ways before anybody else gets up there as far as the strikeout kings go once Ryan and those guys retire. And when we get to wins above replacements, there's no question it's Sandy Koufax head and shoulders above the rest as well. Nolan Ryan is the closest at 19. He should break 100. Seaver's up there, Sutton, Blyleven, the usuals. Like 80s were just dominant pitchers, setting a standard. Rick Rochelle is up here. He's still doing fairly well. He's having a solid career. And then after that, Bob Welch. We have to go quite a bit a ways away. So it's going to be a while. By the end of the decade, we might have some new ones popping up, but I'm not sure. So let's take a look at the Hall of Fame. It was Pete Rose barely getting in on his first year, and Phil Niekro, 95.9%. So it's ironic that Rose got in on his first year when he's, banned from baseball at the time, and now he's not anymore, but that's ironic. Fergie Jenkins just missed out. Clete Boyer just missed out, and Phil Niekro is sitting there with 95.9% to get in on his first year. Congratulations, Phil. The lineup we have, we're going with the same thing. We got Bostock. Matt Williams is getting in this time. Paul Molitor, Winfield, Schmidt's moving to first. Ozzie Smith, Terry Steinbach, and Otis Nixon. It's a weaker lineup. Nolan Ryan, Hershiser, Glavin, Jose Rijo, and Dennis Martinez are the rotation. Much stronger rotation. We have Eckersley, Suter, Christensen, who can also start potentially. Kenny Rogers, Chuck Finley, who can also start. I might put him in over somebody else. I'm not sure yet. We also have Mark Leiter and Bob Ojeda still up here as well. So I'm looking for another reliever, potentially. Not sure. BJ Surhoff is here. Galarraga is here. He's going to be starting against lefties. But we're going to let Schmidt, unless Schmidt really starts to struggle, we're going to let Schmidt get a shot against righties because his time is winding down with us. But I think it's going to be a little bit tougher this season. The only way to know is to find out. And we are going to jump to the All-Star break to see what happens in the beginning of the 1990s. Well, the first half of 1990 and the new decade is working out pretty well for us. We are on an amazing run at the 678 winning percentage of 59 wins, but so too are the Phillies, who are only 5.5 back. And if it weren't for these last 3 wins and 2 losses, they were as close as 3.5 back. So it is a tight race. And will the Phillies keep up with this? I don't know, but they've got a great leadoff man in Ken Griffey Jr., and then they got Eddie Murray and Henderson and Burks behind them. Don't know if they have the pitching, if that's going to keep up. We'll find out. They do have Rigetti in the bullpen at the closer spot. In the NL West, the Braves are 3.5 up on the Padres. The AL, it's the Blue Jays 3.5 up on the Tigers, and the Mariners a game up over the Angels and a game and a half up over the Rangers. It is a tight one in the AL West, with most of those teams still just 1 run away from getting in there. The Mets, meanwhile, not looking too good, but it's the Brewers who are the worst team. They have Dave Parker going for them. He came over after the spell, but he's no longer what he was for us, unfortunately for them. So when we look at the league leaders, Brett Butler is hitting .343 along with Edgar Martinez. Kevin Mitchell has 24 home runs and 82 RBI to lead the league. Gary Pettis with 30 stolen bases. Will Clark is slashing away with a .965 OPS. Barry Larkin is hitting at a .50 WAR rate. Jose Oquendo, 21-game hitting streak. Ben McDonald, a .249 ERA. I got to say, Jose Oquendo, that's one of my favorite names from players from the Cardinals and such. Mark Langston and Frank Viola, both at 12 wins. Clemens has 131 strikeouts. Craig Lefferts to 23 saves. And Roger Clemens with a .46 pitcher WAR. In the NL, it's Tony Gwynn back up on top, hitting .341, but Bostock is right behind him, and so is Paul Molitor. Bo knows home runs again. He's got 25 home runs right now. He's almost past last season's total of 33. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as he gets to where he had his hip problem. Eddie Murray and Eric Soderholm, still both with 64 RBIs. Eric Davis and Ricky Henderson with 25 stolen bases. Eric Soderholm has a .946 OPS. Julio Franco is hitting a .43 WAR. Brian Harper had an 18-game hitting streak. Bostock's currently on a 17. Hershiser is been unhittable. It looks like 1.77 ERA, followed by Ryan at 2.22, who's finishing strong his career. John Tudor has 13 wins, though. Hershiser and Ryan are right behind. Strikeouts, it's 134 for Nolan Ryan. Tudor is at a 2.4 ERA, so he's third. There are some dominant pitchers going on. 134 for Ryan. Saves, 22 saves for Dennis Eckersley, and Hershiser with a 4.4 pitcher WAR. We did move Mike Schmidt out of the starting lineup. Galarraga is in there. Matt Williams is crushing the ball right now, which is great to see. So Molitor's up there in second and Bostock in front of him. They should be scoring. Bostock should be scoring lots of runs. He's on pace for 104. We recently put Molitor into second instead of third because Williams went on a tear with his home runs. So his run total should bounce up and give Williams more RBI to hit from. Notice we do not have a lot of power in our lineup. Now, Nixon just came back from being injured for about 8 weeks or 6 weeks. But home runs were fourth, but we're doing great everywhere else. And it's the pitching and the defense that is just crushing it outside of the zone rating. So we have, and Glavin's struggling, but I'm going to stick to historically, let him start every game. Although Chuck Finley has definitely proven himself deserving of getting a start or two. So we might actually switch it over to see if Finley can do well in the second half for us and just say, sorry, Tommy, you're going to have to come off the bullpen. So as far as all-star teams go, let's see. In the AL, Clemens gets the start. Ramon Martinez is in there. Greg Maddux is in there. I forget Toronto is loaded with pitching. Jeff Montgomery for Baltimore. Then we got Don Slott for the White Sox at catcher. Will Clark at first. Bip Roberts at second. Howard Johnson Hojo's at third. Having another solid season. Barry Larkin at short. Brett Butler in left. Roberto Kelly in center. And Larry Walker in right field. 17 home runs at the break. Beat out Willie McGee. We have Hershiser getting the start here. Jose Rio also makes it. So does Nolan Ryan. Eckersley gets the nod. Brian Harper at catcher. Steinbach makes the team, though. That's his third one. That's good to see. Fred McGriff, the Crime Dogs at first base. Paul Molitor at second. Wade Boggs at third. Eric Soderholm at short. Ricky Henderson in left, Chris Smith in center, and Danny Tartable in right. So it is going to be an interesting run here. The Blue Jays, they have the pitching with Clemens, Cone, and Maddux. That's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. They have Tom Gordon back here, who's obviously not quite where he will peak at. Honeycutt's back there at the end of his career. Mark Eichhorn as well. So they've got some talent, but the offense is clicking too. So there's no reason they shouldn't make the playoffs, and they would be a very dangerous team with that starting rotation. Seattle has Drabek, not having the same year he had in '89, but still doing really well. John Kruk's over there doing fine for him. Good to see our former player doing that, since he's in the American League and not in the National League. All right, well, that's where we're at whenever we're going into the second half of the season. We're going to see how 1990 plays out. I think first, let's go a day so we can see who wins the home run derby. That's because that's a thing now, apparently. I forgot that was happening. And it was Kevin Mitchell who beat out Matt Williams. So that's a shame. But Matt Williams beat him on the field. We'll be happy. So they're tied at 22 home runs to 24 home runs in the regular season. Hopefully Williams ends up with more as the year goes on, and we will see how things play out. And I hope that is with us closing in on the Yankees even more and starting the 1990s off with a very strong year, because like I said, we're aging, and I don't know if we're going to be able to keep that up. And while you have teams like the Blue Jays, who if they re-sign their players are going to be set for the next decade. Well, the season ended fantastic for us to start off 1990. We won the division by 20 games. The Phillies couldn't keep up, neither could the Expos or anybody else. The Braves squeaked by 4 games over the Padres, winning 86. We won 113. Another 100-game winner were those Blue Jays, led by Maddux and Cone and Clemens. The Mariners won 98 to win by 13 games. I mean, the Tigers are right there, 2 games behind. The Tigers, with Kirk Gibson and Chris Sabo, Will Clark, Jesse Barfield. I mean, they had quite a few, and I believe they had Jack Clark as well, because the free agency filings have happened. Now, as far as the playoffs go, not what we were hoping for. We actually lost 4 games to 3. The Braves came back to win games 6 and 7, 6-4 and 2-1 to defeat us. Nolan Ryan went down. And although we had the MVP, Bostock, who had 14 hits at 483, got upset. It was a rough one to lose. And so the Braves went to the World Series, and they defeated the Blue Jays as well, which gave them their second championship, first one since 1914. So the Braves won for the first time in this simulation. So congratulations, Atlanta, for that one, but it keeps us from starting the 1990s strong. I'm a little worried with our team getting a little older. I don't know what we have in store, if we're going to be able to keep up with some of the other ones who have, like the Blue Jays. Now, when we look at the league leaders at the end of the season, Edgar Martinez hit 336, Kevin Mitchell 44 home runs, Glenn Davis and Kevin Mitchell with the 142 RBI. Quite the number there. Delino DeShields with 48 stolen bases. Will Clark had a 923 OPS. Bip Roberts with an 8-1 WAR. Jose Oquendo, 21-game hitting streak. Roger Clemens a 2.68 ERA. Mark Langston picked up 20 wins and is a free agent, interestingly enough. I don't think we need a starter, though. That's the problem. Clemens, 237 strikeouts, barely beating out Eric Hansen. Craig Leferts with 40 saves, and Clemens with an 8.5 pitcher WAR. Maybe a Cy Young on his hands. The batting title in the NL went once again to Paul Molitor, hitting 327. Bo Jackson, 46 home runs, which is way higher than any of his totals in real life ever were. Matt Williams at 43 for us. Tartable and Williams both had 116 RBI. Otis Nixon, 52 stolen bases. He was doing that for us. We let him go. He's now signed with California. So he did leave the league for us, but we made some changes. Ozzie Smith was also up there, and along with Ricky. Tartable had a 932 OPS. Paul Molitor, a 7.4 WAR. Robbie Alomar, a 20-game hitting streak. Our pitching's what did it for us, especially this season, with Hershiser pitching 204. Nolan Ryan, you'll notice, also for us, 224, but as a free agent, we let him go. He's got probably, if trends continue, he's got one, maybe 2 seasons left. He'll be great probably for them, but it's time for us to move on. We had Dennis Martinez also have a great one. Ryan had 22 wins, followed by Jose Rijo and Oral Hershiser. Another reason why we let Ryan go ahead and go at the moment. Nolan Ryan had 262 strikeouts, Eckersley 42 saves, and Jose Rijo with an 8-2 pitcher WAR. So you can see we were doing quite well. Everything except for on-base percentage was really top-notch, and our zone rating wasn't the best. But we even hit more home runs than I thought. Now, when we check out the awards, before we look at the draft and everything, we can find out, did we claim any? So we will start with the Gold Gloves in the AL. Pitcher went to Mark Kubica. Darren Dalton got the catcher one. Mark Grace and Bip Roberts, both Royals at first and second. Tim Wallach third again. Tony Fernandez at short. Darryl Strawberry picking one up in left. John Cangelosi in center. And Jesse Barfield in right. For the NL, it went to Gary Ross at pitcher. Phil Lombardi and Eddie Murray and Lance Blankenship all at catcher first and second. So what an infield for the Phillies. Terry Pendleton at third. Mike Benjamin at short. Barry Bonds in left. Lenny Dykstra in center. And Eric Davis in right. The AL reliever of the year went to Bill Landrum, who had 36 saves along with 13 wins and a 1.81 ERA. Dominating stuff, getting it unanimously. And Eckersley wins it unanimously in the NL. As we saw, he led the league in saves with 42. AL Silver Sluggers go to Darren Dalton at catcher to go along with his Gold Glove. Will Clark at first. Bip Roberts again with his Gold Glove. Gets it a Silver Slugger as well. Edgar Martinez, winning the batting title, picks it up at third. Greg Jeffries at short. Kevin Mitchell, Roberto Kelly, and Willie McGee in the outfield with Glenn Davis as the DH. In the NL, it was Fernando Valenzuela hitting .292 at the pitcher spot. Not pitching as well, though. Brian Harper at catcher. Cecil Fielder at first, hitting 40 home runs at the age of 27. He's at 30, 40, 40 the last couple of years, but this time he hit .275. Paul Molitor at second. Matt Williams at third. Soderholm at short. And the outfield consisted of Ricky Henderson, Chris Smith, and Danny Tartable. The Rookie of the Years, Larry Walker takes it for the Twins in the AL. He hit 25 home runs, 94 RBIs, 256, and 87 runs. 5-1 WAR, unanimous for the AL. And in the NL, it was Stan Javier. Jeff King also picked one. But Stan Javier, center fielder, scored 68 times, 145 hits. Same as Walker, but far fewer everything else. 26 stolen bases, a 4.6 WAR, so it must be his glove that helped him do it in the position of center field. The AL Cy Young, unanimously to Clemens. We saw he led the league in WAR and strikeouts, 18 wins as well. And it was Nolan Ryan. So long, sir. Thank you for the memories. 260 strikes, picking up his second Cy Young in 3 years. It took him a long time to get it, but he finally did. He's up to 5,300 strikeouts. In reality, where to get 5,700? He's got a shot at it if he plays 2 more years, which he did in reality. So it's going to be a close one. Jose Rio picked up 10. Hershiser and Martinez also getting some points. Kevin Mitchell gets the AL MVP with 10 first-place votes. Kelly, Roberts, and Martinez all picked up several as well. But Mitchell, it's hard to argue against that 142 RBI season. And Paul Molitor beating out Ricky Henderson, Matt Williams, Danny Tartable, Nolan Ryan picked up some as well. First-place votes, but Paul Molitor picking up his third one in a row. What a dominating performance with leading the league in WAR, batting twice in that, doubles once, hits twice, runs twice. This season he scored 103 and drove in 91. He was almost 100. 38 stolen bases, barely getting caught. His on-base percentage has gone down, but his slugging went up. So let's hope he can keep that up a little bit longer. Now, as we look at the retirees, Dave Parker did retire at the age of 39. He ended up with 2,600 hits, 290 home runs, and 13 RBI, a 55 WAR. In reality, he's a little bit shy of his WAR of 62. There were 1,400 RBI, way shy of his home run total of 339. He missed out by 40 on that one. Hits, he was only less than 100 away. Runs, he scored 1,200 in reality. He scored it again in this one. So he ended up being roughly the same. He could have played another year. He did in real life, and he didn't have a horrible year. So, but he decided to call it quits. He hung it up, and we retired his number. Free agents, the big ones are Chris Smith, Otis Nixon, who's already signed. Ryan's out there. Jack Clark is out there. He did play for Detroit as well. Dave Winfield, we let him go because, again, we're moving in a different direction. Langston's out there. We are going to be having Paul O'Neill, who we traded for. We traded Otis Nixon away for him. That's right, we didn't release him. We traded him. We traded Otis Nixon away for Paul O'Neill. I have a special place in my heart for him because I think I mentioned on a previous episode, I have a game-used bat of his that he signed. It's in my garage. It is so cool to just mess around and swing that thing around. Joe Carter's our power spot. He only hit 9 home runs last season. That's a little concerning, but this is the time. This is when he was hitting them for the Blue Jays, and he was driving in those runs. So I'm hoping, now he's getting ready to move to Toronto, which he was full of power while he was there. So I'm hoping he's going to have that for the next 4 or 5 years. Damian Easley, we moved up, but Matt Williams is there. Jose Vizcaíno, Paul Molitor, Galarraga's ready to go. We have Surhoff and Terry Steinbeck. It's going to be interesting. We do have a stellar rotation, I feel like, with Rijo, Martinez, Finley, Hershiser, and Glavin. Eckersley's back there. Christensen is still there, plugging away, doing great. We could move him to the starting rotation. Kenny Rogers is still not ready to do that, though. Bob Ojeda's still in there. And Jamie Moyer is another one that we traded for. We traded away Mark Leiter for him. I'm not all that impressed with Leiter. Although with a torn rotator cuff, Moyer is going to have to wait, but we also know he can play for like 20 years. So I thought I'd go long term for him. And in the draft this season, Manny Ramirez is the standout. Jorge Posada's in there as well. Bobby Abreu, Carl Everett, Uget Urbina. I mean, there are some names that I'm like, this was my fantasy team. I thought these guys were going to be good, and they did maybe they didn't. But, man, it's bringing back some flashbacks of some fantasy baseball in the late 90s when these guys are all up there in the majors. The one thing that's interesting is when you check out their real stats, they all take a little bit longer to get to the majors for the most part than what they were in originally. So in 96, 95, 96, it's going to take a while for some of these guys to make to the majors, as opposed to in the 30s and 40s and 50s, whenever guys are making it to the majors so much faster. Chipper Jones, I'm sure, doesn't want to get called up to the Mets, but he will at some point. Pedro's there in Double-A for the Cubs. He can stay there. We don't want to face him. Ken Griffey is on the trading block. Unfortunately, not Ken Griffey Jr. We'll see how things go. But let's check out the first-year player draft. We are drafting 28th. So we're not going to be getting any of the big ones. Paul Bird, Brad Radke, Andy Pettit is here. And the mock draft actually has Pettit falling to us. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'd be awesome if it does. And we have Mike Sweeney. These are names that were all over my fantasy teams. Fernando Vina, he was a favorite for a while. Man, so many names, bringing back some flashbacks. So let's see. Milwaukee with the first pick is going to take Manny Ramirez. Makes sense. The Brewers are going to take, the Dodgers are going to take Jason Schmidt. The Mets, Mike Sweeney. Uget Urbina to the Red Sox. Armando Benitez to the Astros. The Yankees take Bobby Abreu. Chuck Smith to the A's. Posada goes to the Indians or Cleveland. Kansas City, Derek Lowe. San Francisco takes Matt Manti. Man, I thought he was going to be a stud. I think he did well 1 year, and that was about it. The Twins, Esteban Loaiza. The Cubs, Cliff Floyd. Andy Pettit went way before the mock draft had him going, unfortunately, but that is about right, and he goes to the A's. The Reds take LaTroy Hawkins. The Pirates, Edgardo Alfonso. Carl Everett goes to the Rangers. Padres get Ishmael Valdez, another one I thought was going to be something special. The Expos take Felix Rodriguez. White Sox, Jeff Cirillo. Ricky Badalico to the Orioles. California, Rich Loisel. Brad Radke to the Braves, who I thought was way better than whenever I looked at his stats. He wasn't as good as I thought, but I got to keep in mind in the 90s and such, a 4 ERA wasn't all that horrible. The Phillies, Aaron Sele. Deck Glenvale to the Mariners. The Tigers get Jim Messier. Terry Adams to the Tigers. Scott Hatteberg to the Blue Jays. Ray Durham is out there still. Sean Estes is who they want us to pick. I mean, he's another one I was like, ooh, this guy's going to be great. And he just never really amounted to much outside that year, the 2000 year. But that 1997 year, I thought this guy was going to be a stud. And he just kind of, I mean, Ray Durham's out there. That's a solid player for a while. Very solid player. At second base, Dimitri Young. John Mabry's out there. Mark Sweeney. Mark Sweeney was a good hitter for a while. Or maybe I'm getting him mixed up with another one. Is there a Mike Sweeney for the Royals? Let's see. Vigna. Again, second base, but flames out rather quick. I'm leaning towards Durham, unless there's some pitcher out here that Antonio Osuna, Eddie Guardado, Paul Bird, solid pitcher for a while. Well, a short while. Again, I thought he was so much better than how we misremember things sometimes. But I guess in the era that we're talking about, that wasn't the worst. We're going to go with Ray Durham. That's our guy. And then the Brewers take Vigna. Fitting he played for them to start off round 2. So I'm going to wrap up the draft, and let's get ready for the 1991 season. Opening day is upon us, and we are going up against who else but the Chicago Cubs. So we are hoping to return to form, although a lot has changed. We don't have Nolan Ryan, who is now a Pittsburgh Pirate. We don't have Mike Schmidt, who is now a New York Met. We don't have Otis Nixon. We have Paul O'Neill instead, but it's going to be interesting. We did sign Bob Tewksbury for our bullpen. We also signed Vince Coleman to back up in the outfield as well behind Bostock, O'Neill, and Carter. It's going to be an interesting season. I don't know if we have the firepower. I love the pitching. I don't know if our firepower is going to be there for the opening day bats, though, if we're going to have the offense. But when we check in on the Hall of Fame, Fergie Jenkins made it in his third year. Bill Freehan in his first year. So he retired in 1976 in reality. He made it all the way in 1985. 2,600 hits. A 81 WAR compared to a 40 WAR. I mean, those extra years were very, very good to him. He won several Gold Gloves, lots of All-Stars, 3 Silver Sluggers, Bill Freehan. And Dick Allen gets in, the Wampum Walloper. He had an MVP. He had a Rookie of the Year. Won them both the same year in 1964. He played another 20 years without winning another one. But he did end up with 400 home runs, 1,300 RBI and runs, 2,300 hits, a 71 WAR. Much better than reality. Or actually, his WAR was less. He scored more runs and RBI, had more home runs, but that's because he did play an extra 8 years, even though he didn't really do much in those 8 years. So, I mean, it's kind of just what it was. And he ended up having a barely decent, or barely better career than he did in reality, I guess, when you look at that. But Larry Jackson, Joe Torre did not get in. Lou Brock did not get in. Rusty Staub, Larry Durker, lots of names that did not get in. So it's going to be interesting. Jim Brewer's up there. Johnny Bench, way, way away. He didn't have the WAR, 20 less WAR. Wow, Johnny Bench may not get in, but we'll see. So we're going to see how 1991 plays out. We'll pick back up at the All-Star break and see where we're at. Well, this season has been exciting so far. We are sitting at 50-31, just a game and a half up on the Expos. The NL West has 2 teams tied with the Braves and the Reds at 45 wins apiece, barely in front of the Giants. The Tigers are 6 games up. The Blue Jays, who we thought were going to be something amazing, you'll notice strikeouts, ERA, fantastic, but they can't put any runs on the board. Find themselves 13 games out of first, and the Twins are 5.5 with the best record in baseball. With 52 wins and 30 losses. So I was right. We are slipping a little bit. We did make some changes, quite a bit. We let some players go, so that's probably part of the reason. Nolan Ryan is doing well for the Pirates. We knew that would happen, but It is what it is, and we're moving on without him, and our pitching has not been our weak spot. So let's check out the league leaders. Ryan Sandberg is at 338 for Minnesota, followed by teammate Mike Sharperson, third baseman. So second and third are taken care of there. Mark McGwire for Minnesota has 25 home runs. No wonder the Twins are doing so well. They're putting runs on the board. They are first in runs, second in average, second in home runs, sixth in defensive efficiency. Okay. Kevin Mitchell for Seattle, 61 RBI. Otis Nixon has 29 stolen bases. Again, who we traded away. But I think Paul O'Neill's been doing just fine. And long term, it's a better deal for us. Sandberg, 994 OPS. Barry Larkin and Bip Roberts both have a 4-5 batter WAR. Craig Biggio and Bill Pacoda both have a 20-game hitting streak, but Chili Davis is currently on a 15. Dennis Leonard at 2.25 ERA, besting Maddux, and Gooden's back up there after a less than stellar season in 1990. He is having a solid one so far. Kevin Apier with 12 wins, besting Gooden and Leonard. Roger Clemens is one up on teammate David Cone, 134 strikeouts to 133. Lee Smith, 23 saves, and Roger Clemens with a 5.5 pitcher WAR. Looking for another Cy Young, it looks like, the way that he's going. What's his contract like? He's got 3 more years, so it's going to be a while before we can have a shot. I think it's fun that he starts his career with Toronto instead of going to Toronto like he did in the late 90s. So that one's an interesting, fun little dynamic. In the NL, Julio Franco for the Braves is hitting 349. Lyman Bostock still going at 320 at the age of 40. Jose Canseco with 25 home runs. Matt Williams a little slower this year, but still having solid power numbers. Albert Bell and Jose Canseco both with 57 RBI. Roberto Alomar, 29 stolen bases. Vince Coleman sitting there at 24, and he's not even a everyday starter. So that's amazing that he's getting those stolen bases. Bonds is hitting 950 OPS. And they've got Julio Franco. So the Braves, they are doing really well offensively, but struggling in the pitching categories. You can see us, we are scoring a whole lot more. We can't hit home runs, and our defensive efficiency is really disappointing, but our pitching's fantastic, and our hitting outside of the power numbers is great too. Robbie Alomar with a 4.8 batter WAR, and Andy Van Slyke, a 16-game hitting streak, far fewer than the AL, what we have going on over there. Dennis Rasmussen is at a 2.09 ERA. Not anything to talk about in the 90s like that, but he is crushing it this season with only 41 strikeouts in 86 innings, while Jose Rijo in 128 innings, 109 strikeouts, 2.1 ERA, and a 12-2 record to lead the league in wins with 12 wins. Nolan Ryan, though, is leading the league with 145 strikeouts. He has a 2.20 ERA, which is good for third, but only 7 wins because the Pirates are struggling to put up runs behind him, and the defense is worse than ours. You'll also notice Randy Johnson is now on our team. I have not pitched him yet. We just went fishing for him. Ended up, the Dodgers needed a catcher, and so you'll see we traded Terry Steinbach and Midray Cummings. I traded Steinbach away because, yes, he's still hitting the ball decent, but his power numbers aren't there. His defense is not as there. So we have BJ Surhoff, whose defense is slightly better, and we're hoping he will hit just as well as Steinbach, and he's hitting 325 so far. And Dave Nilsson is getting closer and closer at the age of 21. He did make his debut in 1992, so we are a year ahead of when he actually made his debut. Not that it was anything to write home about, but we're hoping in the mid-90s he's going to be a solid, good hitting, good defensive catcher is the goal with that. So I'm hoping, I think getting Randy Johnson out of the deal is a much better deal. We haven't been able to sign him to an extension yet. He's been kind of picky about that, but he's under arbitration and we'll be okay, and we'll work something out long term. Rick Aguilera has 23 saves. Eckersley is up there with 18. And Jose Rio with a 4.1 pitcher WAR. Now, the All-Star game, the All-Star rosters are in the AL. Clemens gets the start at pitcher. Mike Jackson in the closer role. Brian Downing at catcher with a 2.2 WAR, 6 home runs, 296 average. Will Clark is in there for Detroit, hitting 262, only 5 home runs, which is surprising to me. Sandberg, no surprise there with his numbers, is at second base. Steve Buscemi, 17 home runs. Is having just as good of a year almost. Outside of the hitting numbers are a little less, but he's doing great. Hojo is back in there at third, besting Edgar Martinez, who is by far a better hitter, it looks like, but maybe he's a DH. Barry Larkin at shortstop, Kevin Mitchell in left, and Bip Roppers in center, Jack Clark in right, and as well as David Justice getting, is this his first one? It is his first one at the age of 25. In the NL, it's Oral Hershiser getting the nod for what he's done previously because it's not this year. And when we brought in Johnson, decided to move Hershiser to the bullpen because he has been struggling with that 5.12 ERA. His strikeouts per nine are down. It's a tough season for him. Rio also made it for us. Dennis Eckersley is there at the closer role. Brian Harper at catcher. Steinbach did make the team yet again for his fourth All-Star appearance. So it's good to see him, and I want him to do well, but not too well for the Dodgers. Paul Molitor at first, hitting .305, barely beating out McGriff. Molitor's defense is a hindrance, but he's so good at the plate. And I mean, the three-time reigning MVP, we can't argue with that. At second, it's Julio Franco, Matt Williams at third, Alan Trammell at short, Barry Bonds in left. He's having a 312 home run, 24 stolen base season. Ricky Henderson's also making the team yet again. Lenny Dykstra, though, gets the start in center, and Danny Tartable in right. And then when we look at the home run derby, it was Tony Armas winning, beating out Mark McGwire 12-10 in the final round, it said. So that's where we are at the break in the All-Star game appearance. You can see our power numbers are not there. It's Matt Williams, and that's it. Paul O'Neill's doing fine hitting the ball. We are driving in some runs, but we just aren't able to do much. The rest of the rotation, Dennis Martinez is having a great season. Finley's doing well. Glavin's doing well. Larry Christensen back in the setup role is 9-2 is doing fantastic. Kenny Rogers, he's not yet the starter, but he's doing fine for us. Tewksbury Ojeda, not all that great. But we also have Jose Batista, who's there, not doing all that either. So it's going to be interesting. The bullpen's not the strongest, but our starters are doing fantastic. We don't commit many errors, but we're not doing much else on defense because we got some people who just don't have that range. But offensively, outside of the power numbers, we are doing fantastic. So we'll see. Can we hold off the Expos? Ray Langford, Matt Noakes, Fred McGriff, they are coming at us. Harold Baines, Todd Zeal, Sean Dunston. So these are names I remember, but they're struggling. They're hitting the ball okay, but their pitching is a little bit more well-rounded. So is their defense, it looks like. It's going to be interesting to see this race as it plays out, hopefully with us coming out on top. Once again, we proved to be a second-half team. We reeled off 10 in a row in August. Finished a little lackluster, but the Pirates and the Expos just could not keep pace. We ended up with a 100-win season. The Braves are who we had to face again in the NLCS. We're looking for revenge. They're looking for a repeat. They won by 6 games over the Reds. The Twins held off, got 94 wins to beat out the Angels, and the Tigers 12 games better than the Orioles. When we look at the playoffs, we will see in the LCS, once again, the Braves have our number. They won the first 3. We came back and won 4 and 5, but then lost 14-7 in Game 6. Edgar Martinez just battered us, hitting 514 hits there, 8 RBI. We can't beat them in the World Series. So they went to face the Tigers, who won a tight one against the Twins in 7 games. And the Tigers, though, swept the Braves to end up winning their 7th championship, the first since 1959. So it's been a long drought, 30-plus years, but they finally made it back to the mountaintop and victorious thanks to Spike Owen, who's a name I don't know. He was just a big leaguer, it looks like, but in this World Series, he hit .467 with 7 hits there, and not much outside of they just pushed the Braves aside. So I'm disappointed the Braves couldn't do it again since we lost to him, but we have found our nemesis when it comes to who our big rival is at the moment, it looks like. When we check in on the league leaders, Ryan Sandberg hit .325, get the batting title. McGwire got to 49 home runs, which I believe, it's slightly short of his rookie season. So he's already up to 193. He is going to be something amazing. And the Twins have him locked up through 1996. So that's going to be interesting to see what totals he's going to smack for the Twins, and will they be able to keep help around him? Kevin Mitchell with 124 RBIs. Otis Nixon had 73 stolen bases for California. Sandberg had a 953 OPS. Bip Roberts an 8.7 WAR. Craig Biggio and Bill Pecota still held on to their 20-game hitting streaks. Greg Maddux, 2.29 ERA. David Cohn was third, but the Blue Jays so disappointing offensively. Just could not get it done with their three aces. Dennis Leonard had 21 wins for Kansas City. David Cohn had 266 strikeouts, beating out Roger Clemens. And Dwight Gooden, Doc Gooden there, 3.34 ERA, 18 wins, having a resurgence for the last place Texas Rangers, who had 74 wins still. Not the worst of last place win totals that we've seen. Lee Smith with 44 saves and Roger Clemens with a 9.8 pitcher WAR, having a 3.09 ERA and 17 wins. In the NL, it was Julio Franco with a 3.28 average and Barry Bonds right behind him. Paul Molitor hit 3.09 as well. Jose Canseco, the other of the Bash brothers in this league, with 46 home runs and 113 RBI. He had a 2.44 average, so no Triple Crown approaching there. Roberto Alomar, Robbie Alomar had 55 stolen bases. Vince Coleman, and like I said, not completely playing and starting, had 51, and Ozzie Smith there with 48. Bonds had a 1.010 OPS. Alomar, though, with a 7.9 batter WAR. It's a toss-up on who's going to win that MVP this year. It's not going to be Molitor, I'm sure, but he'll have some votes. Mark Whitten had a 17-game hitting streak. John Burkett, a 2.48 ERA, barely beating out Nolan Ryan, who also had 267 strikeouts and 18 wins. Maybe we let him go a year too soon, but it didn't hurt us in the regular season. Dennis Martinez, a 2.61 ERA for us. John Tudor had 21 wins. Nolan Ryan, again, with the strikeouts. Randy Johnson, who has some control problems right now. Long-term, he'll be fine. Hopefully we can sign him to a long-term contract. Rick Aguilera with 42 saves, barely beating out Eckersley, who had 41. And Jose Rio with a 7.2 pitcher WAR to tie former teammate Nolan Ryan. When we look at the awards, let's see who ends up with these major accomplishments. Let's start with the Gold Gloves in the AL. It was Greg Harris for Seattle at pitcher, Tony Pena Sr. at catcher, Will Clark at first, Glenn Hubbard at second. Third goes to John Castino, Barry Larkin at short, and the outfield was Henry Cotto, Dave Gallagher, and Larry Walker. So the Twins have McGuire and Walker there. That is quite the hitting duo. In the NL, Alex Fernandez at pitcher, Bob Guerin at catcher, Eddie Murray at first, who just signed an extension to the Phillies. It looks like he's going to maybe see out his career with them, or at least all his productive years. Lance Blankenship at second, third base Terry Pendleton, Mike Benjamin at short, Phil Plantier at left, Gary Pettis in center, and Harold Baines in right. The AL reliever of the year goes to Steve Farr of Detroit with 35 saves and 8-5 record, a 1.91 ERA and 73 strikeouts. Congratulations, Steve Farr. Aguilera did win unanimously, which is kind of surprising, but his ERA was 1.10, and Eckersley 3.72 doesn't really stand a chance. But Larry Christensen, our setup man at 10-3 with 3 saves, 2.09 ERA, was right there behind him. I wonder, Christensen's got to have some. He does not have any Hall of Fame metrics going his way, even though he's got almost 200 wins. He only started 3 seasons for us, but he led the league in ERA once, WHIP once, batting average, balls in play. I mean, he's got a 71 WAR. Home runs per 9 he's led. That's interesting that he doesn't even have anything like going there, even though he just doesn't have the All-Stars and stuff like that. Huh. Maybe we should give him a run in the rotation, put Johnson back there at closer or something. Let him just sling for an inning and not walk too many guys. AL Silver Sluggers go to Hector Villanueva at catcher, Mark McGuire at first, Sandberg at second, Hojo at third, getting his 4th one for the Royals there. Barry Larkin at short, and the outfield was Kevin Mitchell, Bip Roberts, and Shane Mack, with Jack the Ripper Clark still getting it done for Detroit. Just want to show that we let him go too soon is what it looks like. In the NL was Bob Walk at pitcher, Terry Steinbach at catcher saying, hey, you traded me too soon. Paul Molitor at first, Julio Franco at second, Matt Williams at third, Eric Soderholm at short, and the outfield was Bonds, O'Neill, and Danny Tartabull. But see, Paul O'Neill, he's going to be a good addition for us. We're not going to lose that, I don't think, anything on Otis Nixon. Juan Gonzalez got the AL Rookie of the Year with 15 first-place votes, hitting 38 home runs and 109 RBIs for Baltimore, besting Hector Villanueva, who had 28 home runs, 251 average, at catcher for California. Bagwell's up there for the Twins. So the Twins have Bagwell, McGuire, and Walker. Who else do they have? And Sandberg. Steve Finley's now making his way up there. They have Brett Butler, Ron Gant, Tony Pena Sr. They just don't have the pitching because Dave Stewart's almost done. Man, if they get some pitching, they're going to be even better. Who do they have coming up? Esteban Loaiza, maybe. Jeff Kent is in there. Mike Hampton. They have some talent. If they can make a good free agent signing or two, they're going to be real big trouble. I'm glad we're not going against them in the same league. Frank Castillo won it for the Expos. Albert Bell, Higgins, and Sosa all picked up a vote. Frank Castillo was 15-6 with 169 strikeouts and a 3.12 ERA. Cy Young, Greg Maddux beat out his teammates, Clemens and Cone. Dennis Leonard also picked up one first-place vote, but Maddux, 12-11, but a 2.29 ERA. We saw they didn't have the offense to support any of them, but that's his first of probably several unless his teammates can beat him out. Rio gets his first one. Yeah, his first one, 1991. 16 first-place votes. He was a dominant season. Nolan Ryan was right behind him. Rick Aguilera picked up 3 first-place votes, and Dennis Martinez was also in there. Jimmy Key, who beats us in the playoffs. I tried to get him a long time ago, and that's why. In the AL, Sandberg gets the MVP, beating out his teammate Mark McGuire. That is his first one. And he doesn't have any of the Hall of Fame metrics yet, but he just hit 10 years, so I'm sure he'll be getting around there fairly soon. Barry Bonds gets a unanimous MVP selection. It wasn't as split as I thought. Molitor did get second. I thought Robbie Alomar would get maybe some, but Bonds with his 30-30 season, 42 stolen bases, 34 home runs. He scored 130 runs, led the league in runs, doubles, walks, on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS, and had a 7-1 WAR. No wonder he got it. Man, what's his contract like? He's got an opt-out after 1993. He'll probably do that. Ooh, we'll see. So let's take a look at the draft. We aren't to free agency yet. The first-year player draft, we got Maglio Ordonez, Jason Giambi, Derek Jeter, Bobby Abreu, Jason Kendall, Edgar Renteria, Melvin Moore, Sean Green. So there's some decent names. This is the Jeter draft, though. There's some other solid players, but they aren't going to be the same. Let's take a look, though, at upcoming free agents. We aren't to the free agency yet, but this way we can see top free agents to be Danny Tartabull, John Kruk, who hit 313 this year. He's been solid for Seattle. Better than I kind of expected. Soderholm, Tom Candiotti, Kenton Hrebeck, Willie McGee, but George Brett, who's not what he was, so not a lot of big names out there. Ken Griffey Sr., if only that were Junior out there. Jose Akindo's out there. So not a lot of huge names. Dwight Evans, but he's at 40. Again, there's aging veterans that are the big free agents name. Nobody else. It doesn't look like there's any opt-outs happening. So let's check out the first-year player draft. We'll be drafting last. Like I said, Giambi, Kendall, Abreu, Johnny Damon is in this one. Shannon Stewart, who's another one that I always thought would be better on my fantasy team than he turned out to be. Edgar Renteria, at the age of 15, is in this one. Pitchers, Derek Lowe, Jason Isringhausen, John Lieber. These are all names that pop out to me. Not a lot else in the pitching categories. So let's start this draft and see who we get left with. we're going to go to the batters. That's what we're going to start needing to do. So New York, the Mets with the first pick of their draft. They already have Chipper Jones, and now they're adding Jason Giambi. They did not add Jeter. Jeter's going to not go to the Red Sox. Oh, good. That would have just been too much. With Chipper Jones going to the Mets, if Jeter would have gone to the Red Sox, that would have been a travesty. The Dodgers are going to take Jeter instead. The Brewers get Jason Kendall. Blue Jays, Bobby Abreu. The Rangers get Richard Hidalgo. The Yankees take Derek Lowe. The Astros get Rich Arilla. Paul Shuey to the Cubs. The Royals, Jason Isringhausen. Cleveland gets Melvin Mora. Chad Fox to the Yankees. Sean Green to the Phillies. Shannon Stewart to the White Sox. Padres pick up Johnny Damon. John Lieber to the Giants. Brendan Donnelly to the Royals. Raul Ibanez to the A's. Expos pick up Tim Crabtree. Julian Tavares to the Orioles. The Reds, Jose Vidro. Matt Lawton to the Pirates. Mariners take Bobby Higginson. The Angels, Joey Hamilton. The Braves, Aaron Foltz. Edgar Renteria almost slipped to us. Went to the Twins. Frank Catalanato to the Tigers. They say we should take Scott Iyer. I mean, there's not much. Roger Cedeno is maybe for a couple years around 2000, but we're hoping we would have somebody better than that anyways. There's just Omar Dahl, maybe. I remember him having some decent seasons. I misremember. Maybe just 1-2 decent seasons. Well, he had a few more decent years. Well, there's not much out here. Any power bats? Tony Batista. I mean, we at least get some power there. We could maybe trade him away. We're going to go Tony Batista to wrap up round one. Round two, the Mets, we're going to take Matt Hergis. But here we will wrap up this episode. I'm going to be going through the offseason, getting us ready for the next episode, which will be 1992 and 93. I want to thank you all for joining me. It's been fun. I'm excited to get in the 1990s. Hopefully have a team that can compete, knock off the Braves, try to track down the Yankees. We are still 6 World Series behind them, I believe. I think they're at 27. I'll have to check that. But it's going to be tougher now because with expansion, teams are getting thinner, but we're also aging and struggling to replace those because we're winning too much to get the new stars and we're not getting the depth at some of these drafts that we need. But we do have Edmonds and Hoffman and Rondell White working their way through our system, Ray Durham as well. So we do have some big, decent players coming in. Decent. You have some all-star Hall of Fame caliber talent coming through. So we aren't hurting, but will we have enough to win the World Series and such? So I want to thank you again. And until next time, have a great day, and we will see you then.